Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, SDack Heads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than SDack Head Sean and SDack Head Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. But for those who are tuning in around the world to the best late-night conservative talk, SDack Heads Radio.
Talk News. Talk News.
Radio.
Talk News. Talk News.
Radio.
Zach.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
Into the silo.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
And good evening. Welcome to another edition of the SDack Heads Radio Show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm your host, SDack Head Clint. Sitting across from me.
You are sitting in a strange seat,
I am. Listen, so we had a coup. And I don't think many people know this, but the name of our show is SDack Heads Unplugged tonight. And the reason it's SDack Heads Unplugged is because one of our SDack Heads has indeed been unplugged. We unplugged Sean. And BZ is sitting across from me. Welcome, my friend.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here, and it's great to see you at the board.
I am so out of place right now. I'm like, I don't even know what to do with my... Like, I've been in chat in 2 different shows. I was in chat earlier, and
but you listen,
and I got called Sean. Like I logged in as SDack Heads Clint.
No, that's the thing. You got there.
I did, and I logged in as SDack Heads Clint, and it still was like Sean, and I was like, wow.
How do they know?
Yeah. And then here I'm at the station, which, to be fair, BZ set everything up for me. Like BZ had the board on. The computers were up.
I emptied the cat box. I cleaned the toilet.
So I came in, and I did the board of topics, and we had our little meeting, and I sat down here, and everything was ready for me to go. And so then I get into our chat role, and it has me logged in as SDack Heads Sean, and everybody says Sean, and I was like,
deception.
No. Yes. Sean has been unplugged, and hence the name of our show.
Yes,
that's titled.
Yes,
and for our listeners who've been with us for a while, and Mary, you did, sweetheart, you did say Clint before you said Sean, so thank you so much for that, for having faith in me. Everybody else, way to doubt. That's all I got to say. Way to doubt. Way to be disbelievers. So for those,
that's exactly what she said. I said Clint before I said Sean.
Yeah, she did.
Little hearts,
hearts, and everything. Mary, I hope you're going to be at Freedom Fest this year. I missed you last year.
Hey, that's a good question. Anybody that happens to be in chat right now, if you plan on being in Freedom Fest,
send us $1,000.
Or you could just say you're going to be in Freedom Fest. I wasn't go to the $1,000, but all right, I'll take that too. We can split it. Hey, wait, if we split it and Sean's not here,
yes,
is it $500 each?
If Sean's not here,
yeah, that's right,
and a tree falls in the forest, right?
Exactly.
By the way, Dave, shrug. I saw SDack Heads and saved my vision for the rest. Dave, you are a visionary. And because you're such a visionary, you don't have to save your vision. You can use that magical power.
That's right.
You use it, my friend.
Oh, Mary Brockman says she can't be there.
Oh, maybe we can bring Freedom Fest to Mary.
Hey.
Right?
Or we could get her swag.
Yes. Yes. I like that idea best.
There you go.
So for those that remember, we used to keep Sacco locked in a cage. Unfortunately, that cage has been emptied. It's kind of been like Guantanamo, really, except for we didn't even have like one person
I've
put in there.
heard rumors about a Sacco.
Yes.
I don't know what a Sacco is.
A Sacco actually exists.
I've never seen a Sacco. I've heard rumors of Sacco. That's all I've heard.
So Sean has been getting a little uppity lately.
Well, all right then.
And
did he say he was going to be listening?
oh yeah. But
well,
this is the crap he does to me.
But see, his arse ought to be in chat right
Yes. This is the crap he does to me when I'm listening and I have to call in for whatever reason, right?
Yep.
Like, I like the text he sent us. Oh, I got to go figure skating. Are you kidding me?
now. Yeah. I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, I didn't
I
either.
didn't see. Well, maybe you'd seen it before. That was completely new to me. I thought perhaps he'd be really good at intramural underwater basket weaving, figure skating. I didn't see that.
I didn't see that at all. But
I did see the box of skates in the back of his truck.
Which,
one time.
I
thought maybe it was kid skates. They were rather small, but he has small, dainty feet. Have you ever noticed? His feet are very dainty.
They are. And his hands are too, which is a little creepy. Which is kind of weird because he has like a solitaire diamond like that he wears on his middle finger, and it's kind of dainty. So like if he were a hand model, like you would swear he was like Elle Macpherson or like somebody.
That's true.
Right?
Listen, now everybody in chat, and Clint, of course, haven't you guys seen chicks with man hands?
Yes.
Right? So why can't there be men with women's hands?
It is. Sean has chick hands. He has, but they're cute, and I know you're listening, Sean. Nose jokes aren't so funny now, aren't they, smartass?
Dave Milner asked me if Ollie the cat was here. He was here. She was here. I'm sorry. Calicos are she's, and she was here last night outside on the porch, and I invited her inside, but she wasn't having any of it.
She was in last week.
She was in
for a little bit.
My entire Thursday night show.
Really?
And I opened the door. I said, "Go out. You can go out." Nope. Was going to stay here. Jumped up on the counter. I got a picture of her
on the soundboard.
Yeah, I got a picture of her.
I was wondering why the settings were off.
I got a picture of her laying in the sink in the bathroom. I got a picture of her on my lap.
Taxes was waiting around for your taxes to be done, which led to worrying about not getting any money back. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes in a day to get you up to $4,000 fast with a refund advance loan. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Expert filing only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Refund advance has $0 loan fees and 0% APR. Refund advance loans may be issued by First Century Bank, N.A. or WebBank. Terms apply. Subject to approval.
In front of the microphone, looking up at me.
Of course. Why wouldn't she be?
Yeah.
So Sean's he says he's figure skating. Many people probably don't know this, but Sean in his youth, up until I think, if I remember the stories right, up until about 9 years ago or so, he was a semi-professional figure skater.
Now that I didn't know either. I had no idea.
Yeah, and but he was, and this is what a lot of our liberal audience doesn't get, in that, Sean has conservative views, but he was actually a cross-dressing figure skater. And so he was actually very much into that LBGTYQZ alphabet.
Way before it was cool.
Yeah, no, he really was. And so it's pretty funny that he's actually doing that now. So he couldn't be here. But anyways, we had to prevent him from doing this.
Does he have a costume? When he does that, does he have to wear a costume?
I don't know.
And if so, is he like a luchadora? Does he have a Mexican wrestler's mask?
It's like Nacho Libre. Remember the movie Nacho Libre?
Jack Black?
Yes, it's like that, but with a tutu.
Yeah, you stole it right out of my... I was going to say,
yes.
Is the little frilly thing there, too?
Yes, and anybody who can draw that and submit it to Clint at SHR Media, SDack.com.
Dave asked me a question in chat. If you want to see Ollie the Cat, go to SHR Media and then click on the last Thursday show that's called The Aftermath. And if you bring that up, you'll see 2 photographs of Ollie the Cat. So there you go. I actually do have photographs of Ollie the Cat helping me run the board. But then the second photograph is Ollie after I fed Ollie some Kettle One.
And Dave's in the chat room said, Clinton Mark, remember, Fred Flintstone was a semi-pro ballet dancer. And he looked exactly like
You're
that.
right.
So
You're right.
Sean used to look exactly like... So perfect. Dave, thank you.
Yeah.
That is the perfect analogy there. So Sean's locked in. We had to put him on a man timeout for that. And so when we got that text, BZ and I immediately hatched our plan. We're not going to talk about exactly how it was executed, just in case we ever have to do anything like that again. We don't want our methodology released, our tactics out there for Sean to be listening to. Although we did give him his little phone so he can listen to us. But we kidnapped him and we dragged him out into the cage. And so that's where he is while he's going to think about what he's doing and before we give his man card back to him.
Well, every once in a while, if he's really good at it, I'm sure he was like Monty Python used to say, he was pining for the fjords. So he was pining to try to get out onto the ice again. That's another thing. I didn't realize that there were ice rinks around here. Because, Sacramento in the summer is hot as hell.
It is, but think about this. He's from Boston.
Baston.
He's from Baston. So there's snow and crap there, right?
Oh, yeah. Right.
So it makes sense that he'd be
well,
that
now
he'd be
that
there,
makes
right?
sense as to where he learned.
Right.
Wait a minute. Does that mean he played hockey?
Well,
he didn't go that direction. He went the
he
other
may have been
direction.
the puck.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. He went the other direction. He went into the figure skating. You know
He's-
what? God bless him.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Lord loves all sorts of people.
Look, he does, and he went into figure skating after his hockey stint. So the two played off each other, which is nice. I want to start off, and we don't have Sean here to surprise, so we're going to have a surprise BZ segment.
Uh-oh.
But here's the thing: like, this segment isn't bad. It's not like Sean, where I knew he'd get pissed off about something. So you're not going to get fired up.
All right. Okay.
I don't think. But the caption I have up listed for the is soccer ball. Do you have any guesses as to why I have soccer ball written up there?
With regard to me, only probably because I don't think I've ever watched a full soccer game in my life.
Uh-huh.
The only thing that I really appreciate about soccer is when they get hit or injured, they are world-class, grade A Academy Award actors.
They are.
As they roll around in pseudo-faux pain on the grass, and, of course, they have to call timeouts, etc. What actors? What splendiferous acting.
They are. But this story is actually really cool. It's not funny. It shouldn't get anybody really angry.
All right.
But this is actually a cool story. So if anybody knows who Shane Kimbrough is.
Uh-oh, no.
Shane Kimbrough is a NASA astronaut.
Oh, okay.
And he was really good. He was good friends with Ellison Onizuka, who was a NASA astronaut also who perished in the Challenger disaster.
Oh.
When the Challenger blew up. And one of the things that Ellison Onizuka attempted to take with him into orbit on the Challenger flight was a soccer ball from his daughter. Because his daughter was a soccer player, so he wanted to take a soccer ball up and put it in orbit with him to commemorate his daughter.
Okay, so it wasn't painted red and named Wilson.
No, it was not.
All right.
The soccer ball that Onizuka flew on the Challenger flight was actually recovered. And so what Shane Kimbrough did, he's the commander of the Space Station Expedition 50 crew, is he took that soccer ball from the Challenger disaster up with him to the space station. So he, 30 years after the Challenger disaster, flew that soccer ball that Ellison Onizuka attempted to take with him on a Challenger.
Well, that's very nice.
I saw that story.
That's kind of fitting.
Yeah,
That's
really
a nice
is.
little tribute.
I thought it was a really cool story. First of all, that a soccer ball was recovered from that explosion intact, and second of all, for that to be taken up into orbit 30 years later by a friend of his was really pretty remarkable.
Perhaps this is a little bit too grotty, but I heard that they actually did find pieces of the astronauts in the ocean. They found helmets. They found parts of seats. And that apparently when you look at the explosion, there's one particular portion that moves off to the right and goes down. They theorize that the cabin containing all the astronauts was mostly intact until it impacted with the ocean. I'm sorry, I can't think of very many ways to go. If anyone was conscious, likely...
Well, they say, I think there were, if I remember right, either 2 or 3 of the oxygen packs were turned on.
Oh, boy.
So they were conscious after the explosion. At least 3 of them were, because their oxygen was activated. And they believe, based upon the condition of the crew cabin, that they were alive up until impact. Whether they were conscious or not, they don't know. And
but from that elevation, I'm guessing it'd take at least 2 minutes.
Oh no, it was more than that. It was more.
3 minutes. There
was. I want to say there was debris. Because what was it? 90-something seconds into flight, there was debris coming down. I think up to like 44 minutes after, and I don't remember. Wow. I think I want to say the free fall was either 12 minutes or 20. It was a long free fall.
That you would have that amount of time if you were conscious. That amount of time is almost worse. Being able to contemplate your fate,
yes,
and perhaps if the windows were intact, to see it coming towards you. How incredibly it's staggering to think about that.
It is, and when you slow down the footage, you can actually see the crew cabin with the umbilicals from the life support and so forth actually coming off it where it broke up in the explosion and it continued upward for a period of time before it arced and coming back down into the Atlantic.
Still, how sad.
Oh, yeah, incredibly. I remember watching it live in school. I remember watching it live in school.
I remember I was going to the airport. I was going to the Sacramento airport. We were going to go to Las Vegas and go to a National Tactical Officers Association event there, a conference. And as we were driving to the airport, the radio was on, and that's when we heard about the Challenger. And again, that day I will never forget. Just like 9/11, just like Kennedy's assassination, I will never forget what I was doing and with whom I was at that particular time. The sad thing about that is, as a corollary, there was a gentleman, an LAPD officer that I met a number of years ago, who I think the Challenger was, 87, 88, maybe 86. I'm not exactly sure.
86. January 20th, 1986.
86.
Yep.
In that particular
because 88
year,
we returned to flight. Discovery returned to flight.
Okay. There was a gentleman there at the Tactical Officers Association conference who was doing door breaching, and he was a member of LAPD's EOD squad. His name was Arlie McCree, and I met him. What a great guy. He had a huge reputation in the EOD community about being a safe guy, a wonderful guy, great family man. 1 week later after I met him, he was killed by a pipe bomb, because they thought that some of the powder had gotten into the threads, and as he attempted to reverse the thread, the pipe bomb exploded. So he diffused some of the most complicated devices that LAPD'd ever seen, and killed by one of the most simple.
Well, so
how the hell did we get off on this tangent?
I have no idea, but I want to get back to the story here. Mr. Kimbrough referenced Clear Lake High School, which is in Houston, Texas, and that's where his son goes to school, and that's where Onizuka's son went to school also, and they're the Falcons. And I want to read this quote here. It says, quote, Space Station Commander Colonel Shane Kimbrough took a piece of CLHS, Falcon History into Space, the high school announced on its website. The soccer ball was signed by members of the CLSH girls and boys soccer team in 1986.
Wow. That's classic.
And was carried aboard the last flight of the space shuttle, Challenger, by another Falcon dad, Colonel Ellison Onizuka. So that's pretty cool. And the reason I bring this story up, and this is just, first of all, I read the story and I thought it was just an amazing story. But I've always kind of been, the space program's actually kind of been near and dear to me. It really has. I actually went to space camp.
How cool would that be?
That was super cool.
Be wonderful.
You're in 7th grade. I mean, it was actually a really cool thing. But
so I grew up during the Mercury and Gemini program and the Apollo program. So all that stuff is just that's what I remember.
Yeah, it's
all the really old
amazing.
stuff. But it was fascinating.
I was there, and in Rocket Park in Huntsville, Alabama, and at Kennedy Space Center. And so when they replaced the Challenger, there was a competition, so to speak, that NASA put out to the schools of the country, where schools could submit the name for the newest orbiter that was going to be replacing the Challenger. And my school, the group that of course I volunteered, right? Because I was I'm a nerd kid. I want to go do that because I dig that stuff. But they actually picked the name that our group submitted, which was the Endeavour.
Really?
Yeah, I got the certificate from NASA and everything, which is really cool.
That is way cool.
So I never saw the Endeavour in person until it was retired. The shuttle fleet retired, obviously, a couple years ago. And it's the Endeavour because it was built in California and named by California schools. It was retired to the Air and Space Museum in Los Angeles.
Do you know the original purpose for the missions of the space shuttle? The original purpose was conceived by the CIA. The purpose was to have them open up the little tops.
Uh-huh.
Their job was to go snatch foreign satellites out of space.
Oh. Interesting.
And then it got repurposed.
I like the original purpose better because that's pretty awesome.
I did. I thought that the first time I heard that, I thought, now that
makes sense.
That's thinking. I like that thinking.
That makes sense. So I had an opportunity to see the Endeavour, which was really cool. Remember when it flew over the Capitol here in Sacramento?
Oh, yes, attached to the 747.
Yep. And then I had it.
Oddly enough, I did see it that day.
I did see it, and then I saw it on display in Los Angeles also, which was just amazing.
Could you get into the cockpit? Could you get into any area like that?
You can, but no, they don't. For tours and everything, no. It's literally up. I'll show you pictures on break. It's literally up, and the thing is, it's huge.
Oh, the space shuttles are huge.
Yeah, it's big. Pretty amazing.
Here's another thing, just to throw in there.
Yeah.
When I went on the first Disney cruise of the Disney Magic, we stopped in Jacksonville and went to Cape Canaveral then, and they have a Saturn V rocket lying down horizontally in that room. If you've never seen a Saturn V rocket,
I have.
I've
seen that one.
And thought to yourself, is that not the biggest fucking thing you've ever seen on the planet? Is that not incredibly impressive?
Yeah.
It's incredible to look at.
And what's amazing is that system launched men to the moon and returned them, and it ran on less of a computer than we talk on every day.
Oh, yes.
On these cell phones.
Exactly.
Our cell phones have a ridiculous amount of
their
computing
processors
power compared to
far in advance, far and away from what they operated back then. That's like putting Alan Shepard on top of a Redstone rocket. The first two Mercury flights were on Redstone rockets.
Yep.
The one thing you knew about a Redstone rocket is the fucker was going to blow up.
Yeah. It was a missile.
Yes, and so they put Alan Shepard
on
top
ICBM.
of that. It wasn't until the third Mercury flight that they actually put somebody on
Atlas. Right? Yeah.
But the first two, I would no more stand on top of a Redstone missile than the man in the moon. all the footage, Google Redstone rocket and look at the videos, and all the videos you're going to see of them blowing up. Good God, that guy had balls.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez. That's incredible.
So, I do want to get to the Ninth Circuit at some point.
Yeah,
this is
we
a
are going to
political
get
show.
there.
So I'm sorry for my tangent, but I had to share the soccer ball story there.
I love stories like that. Stories with a great ending.
Yeah.
And how stories like that are intertwined.
Yeah, they're really cool. The Ninth Circuit. There is still no frickin' decision from the Ninth Circuit.
And people were saying, oh, the decision is going to come in sometime tomorrow. Oh, wait, it's going to come in sometime. Let's listen. Well, on my show last night, I was monitoring everything to think, okay, they're going to have a decision tonight. No.
There's a reason.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
a reason.
You
the
and I
Ninth
were talking
Circuit
about this.
Yes, we were.
They're taking their time for a very specific reason.
Yes, they are. Is it? And here's the interesting thing. They're either going to say, we don't want to touch this and refer it back for some reason with instructions to the lower court, or they know that what Trump did was constitutional and legal.
And they're trying to figure out how they're going to craft
Title 8 of the United States Code, 1182A.
Yep.
And what, 1183A12?
Yep.
Or something like that?
And Section F.
Which passed under Obama. The 12 passed under frickin' Obama.
Well, and he did the same thing in 11 and 15. And also it was our lovely little Chucky Schumer who essentially said that, that was fine back then. That was okay.
Right.
We need to slow immigration down. You lying sack of shite. Thank you.
Yes. And so I think the Ninth is really trying to craft an argument to uphold the lower court's ruling, but they don't quite know how to do it.
I could see it. They
don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I'm getting a great visual from here because you can know that those three arseholes, the enamel is coming off their teeth as they're clenching their jaws, trying to think, if we could only make it some other way. We can't say this. It's got to be. They're losing sleep.
They are.
Thank God they're losing sleep.
They are, well, it wasn't the full court, correct? It was only 3?
No, it's going to be 3.
It's a panel. So it's a panel of 3. Now remember, a panel of 3, they actually upheld the 2A thing, remember? Before the rest of them says, no. Because they just happened to get 2 of them with a couple brain cells. That might be the case here. They're like, how do we craft this to where the rest of these assholes in the next office aren't going to overturn this?
Right. All they're thinking, all the leftists and the Democrats are expecting us to come on the side of Judge Robot in Washington.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Can you imagine if we don't do that?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? Our dinner reservations at the top of the mark in San Francisco. People won't let us in anymore. We won't be able to get free booze.
We don't know what to do. So I think it's very. I'm going to be very, very interested to read their decision. First of all, I'm going to be very interested in what this decision is, and then I really want to read how they craft it. Is it going to be bullshit?
Yeah. Is it going to be packed with weasel words?
Yes. Or are they going to uphold it outright? Or I don't know, but I'm very curious.
I'm exactly with you. Judge, I spoke about this on my show last night. Judge Napolitano came through on 2 separate cuts that I played. He thinks that the Ninth is going to overturn Robot.
They really have to.
If they examine the law.
Yeah, and the constitutionality of it. We're up against the break.
It's great to just think about that.
This is, so let's pick this up when we get back. But I had a conversation with somebody earlier today. And it's the ambulance chasing hack.
I've got to hear that.
This is him. And that was pretty much his argument. But
specious at best.
We're up against the break. When we come back, we're going to continue the Ninth Circus and talk about Trump's picks for his cabinet. All this and more on the SDack Heads Radio Show, SHR Media Network.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the SDack Heads radio show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the SDack Heads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying coffee is stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's berserk Bobcat Saloon, coming soon. To ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to Sackheads Radio Show on the SHR Media Network.
Well, that went quick.
That went very quick.
That's like the first half hour. Boom, done, gone.
That was, yeah. The commercial break went by quickly, too.
Yes, it did.
It was like 3 minutes and 41 seconds.
That's right.
Roughly.
So to speak.
Gross estimate. Ninth Circuit.
The most overturned appeals court on the entire planet, including the planet Zephron as well.
Which is where you're from.
Yes, exactly.
Hence the last name, Zeppelin.
It moves between being overturned 75 to 90% of the time. When something that I had written went through the ninth and then up to SCOTUS, at that point it was It was overturned 90% of the time. And you know what? I think that's a figure of which they're proud.
And what other court do you know of that's proud to be overturned? At all.
I would wager...
Period. Let alone 90%.
A lot of stuff out of D.C. maybe you would know. We all know that
Most judges do not want to be overturned.
No, they don't.
But the ninth doesn't care.
Who would be, in your estimation, because I honestly don't know the answer, who would be perhaps the second most overturned court?
DC.
That's what I would guess.
That's my guess.
Would be DC.
Yeah.
But the ninth, what a bunch of squirrels.
Yeah, they're a court of jesters.
They are exactly that, and exactly why they call them the Ninth Circus.
Yes.
So
Look,
to
they really
speak.
do. They are literally the laughing stock of the judiciary.
On the other hand, you have to consider the source. Now, to be a black-robed judge,
No offense, Ken.
You have to be selected by a senator in your state. Okay, so there's 2 senators, and the Ninth Circuit basically takes care of all the stuff on the West Coast. All of California, Washington, Oregon,
Hawaii.
Hawaii, yes, good point, excellent. And those are
Alaska, which is weird.
Yeah, that is kind of
and
weird,
I think
too.
Nevada.
Yeah, there's a portion of Nevada in there, too. That's right. So those are kind of bastions of leftism, if you will. So I can clearly imagine 2 senators from each one of those states going, hey, I know a great guy to put in there. Let's install my favorite leftist. So they do. And that's how you get the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Although one of the people, I understand, I can't think of his name, one of the people on the Ninth that's going to be judging this is 85 years old. There are 2 Democrats and 1 Republican.
Yes.
He's the token. So here's the deal. It doesn't matter how he votes because he's going to get overshadowed by the other 2 Democrats. On the other hand, just like you were saying, they're taking this amount of time for a reason.
Yes.
I'm dying to find out. And I really am curious to read their brief when it's issued. And fully, I was expecting it today sometime. I was expecting to wake up and I'd look at the news and boom, it's come out. So it is of concern. I just don't know which way to be concerned yet. Whether it indicates they're just taking a long time to say that Judge Robot is a wonderful person, greatest thing since sliced bread, or okay, we have to slap him upside of his head. How are we going to do it nicely? So I am not sure how that's going to go. Because they're a wacky court. They're just a wacky, off-the-wall kind of court. As a matter of fact, Dave Milner, if you have access to it, if I'm not mistaken, you put up either that, or White Mamba, put a link up about watching some of the video that was occurring as some of the arguments were being heard. And Mamba or Dave, depending on which of the 2 of you have that link, if you can somehow find it and put it up in chat, that would be great. Yes, Melanie, yes, figure skating. Absolutely. Figure skating. You nailed it.
Facebook Live video, please. Mel, we would be able to Facebook Live it, but
I had to be here tonight.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it.
As discussed earlier, we actually we caught Sean mid twirl, and we actually locked him up in Sacco's old cage. But
is that what that old rusty thing is over in the closet?
Yes. That being said, prior to this, Sean was learning how to do the hustle to the original 70s disco song. Yeah. So I don't know what Sean's got going on, but he's going through some kind of midlife crisis or something. I literally saw him in a Corvette like the week before.
Ooh, hey, have you seen the new Corvettes?
I have.
Really nice.
They
looking.
are, but this one was like a 94.
Okay, not so nice looking.
Yeah. It shatters.
Hey, a couple of good things did happen. One good thing happened yesterday, and another good thing happened today. Shall we talk about those?
It's your segment.
Oh,
then. It's in red. We talked about this. You were at the pre-production meeting.
Oh, You're right. You're right. Well, yesterday, and this was completely unheralded, if I'm not mistaken. This is the first time that it's ever happened. Vice President Pence casted a tie-breaking vote to confirm Betsy DeVos as Secretary of Education.
Yeah, first time a vice president casted the deciding vote for a cabinet pick.
Vote, yes.
For a cabinet pick.
For a cabinet pick.
Yep. Last time a deciding vote was cast, I think, was 2008.
Yes, and
Is that right?
It literally came down to the wire. And I was speaking about it last night. And the two dissenting. Here's the deal. Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. She's from Alaska. Collins, I don't remember where the hell she's from.
I'm surprised the Alaska senator
not
went against.
Not when you hear what I'm going to tell you.
Oh.
They rolled over to the Democrat side. If there had been one more traitor on the Republican side, then even if Pence had cast his vote, it still would have gone down by one vote. But here's what a lot of people don't realize. And Ed Morrissey at Hot Air wrote about this. And he has an article called GOP Senators Opposing DeVos Are Well Funded by, imagine this, teachers' unions.
Shocking.
Yes. So they did a little bit of a checking, and they found out that both of these senators have been in the good graces of the teachers' unions for quite a while. Kind of a bit of an aberration when compared to the vast majority of all their little GOP colleagues. So the portion of the article said, Murkowski was endorsed by the Alaska chapter of the NEA, National Education Association, in her 2016 campaign for Senate. The group, which represents 12,000 members who work in Alaska's public schools, praised Murkowski for her consistent commitment to improving public education. Note that phrase, public education. They don't give a shite about vouchers, any of that sort of thing. It's
not child education.
No, it's not about the kids. It's about the labor unions.
Yep.
Collins served in the Senate. She's been serving there in the Senate since 97. She received an A grade from the NEA in 2008. The A grade is the highest possible grade according to the senator's own press release. It's based on her voting record and her co-sponsorship of legislation critical to NEA's identified legislative priorities. The A rating was also the result of effective behind-the-scenes advocacy. But wait, there's more. Yes, don't you love it? Because Betsy DeVos, if you looked at any of the videos, was being skewered and grilled and said, can you swear to us, Betsy DeVos, that you would not take a penny away from public education? And she sort of skirted the issue because how can anyone say that they won't take one penny away? Yes.
I'm not going to take one penny away.
Yeah, I'm going
to take lots of pennies away.
I'll take a couple of $1 million away.
I did not take one penny.
But the glorious thing about it is, for a time, people were thinking that she, in fact, may well and truly be lost. But the deal is that Lisa Murkowski from Alaska and Susan Collins, here it is, from Maine, have each benefited from contributions from the NEA. Collins received $2,000 from the union in 2002 and 2008, according to the Center for Responsive Politics. Murkowski, however, is even more corrupt. She received $23,500. Yay, good for her. At least if she's going to do that, make it pay. That's just okay. So the NEA represents 3 million members, and that makes it the absolute number one wealthiest and most influential union in the United States of America. The NEA is number one. So, along with other labor groups like the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, they did everything in their power to wage a massive campaign against Betsy DeVos. who is now admitted, she is a philanthropist, and she's worth about $1 billion herself.
Good.
Which means that she works for it.
Yes.
And a school choice activist. But see, here's the deal. If you're a parent, and Clint, you are a parent.
Yes.
I am not. I will be the first to admit. As a parent, do you not want to acquire the finest education that you can for your child?
No, I want them to go to a public school.
Right, exactly.
Yes, of course I do.
Of course. See,
of course.
That's a given. So if the option was on the table and you moved into, I don't know, wherever, and you discovered that the public school system there was not necessarily the finest.
South Central Los Angeles.
Okay, that. Would you not want to consider vouchers? Would you not want to consider charter schools? Would you not want to consider maybe even homeschooling?
Of course.
Because ultimately, as a parent, you want the finest education.
Yes.
Available for your children.
Yes.
Likely. So that is just such a logical, common sense statement. But the unions don't give a shite about your child.
But the reason they don't is because it's all about power for them, right?
Yes.
Because their teachers are tenured. They get that money. Charter schools don't have unionized teachers. All of that. So...
See, here's the deal.
Here's what I don't understand.
Okay.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, BZ.
That's right.
It's not that I don't understand. How is it that the conservative point of view of charter schools, school choice, hey, libs, aren't you all pro-frickin' choice? Right? You are so pro-choice. Hey, so are we. So's DeVos. She's pro-choice in what it comes to education. So you talk about the kids and everything else, but if an inner city school is failing, if a public school, where inner city or wherever, if it's failing, and the reason I bring inner cities up is because I want to interject the race component here. If you look at a lot of the inner city schools who have a predominantly minority population among the student body, the success rate in those schools is very low in comparison with charter schools and these other schools. I don't buy into that, well, they have to go to that school because that's where the public school is and that's kind of where they live. If a parent of a lower income family can't afford to go to a private school and there are charter schools available and they want their kids to get that good education.
Right, it's an alternative. And it's there.
Yes.
It's present.
Why force that family to go to that substandard school?
Money.
You are exactly. But you're setting that student up to fail rather than giving that student the best possible chance of success. We talk about it here on this show. Equality of opportunity, not equality of result.
Yes, exactly.
And my argument is that a poor, underperforming school in an inner city where kids are forced to attend because they don't have school vouchers or school choice to be able to go into a charter school or something like that.
It's that or nothing.
You, meaning the Libocrats, are not giving them equal opportunity. You are setting them up for failure by requiring them to have a substandard education.
On the other hand, the teachers are consistently every month setting in their dues to the NEA or the AFT, to all the union organizations that represent teachers, and that's how they keep their power.
Yeah, hey, unions, public schools, if you really believe you have the better product, now we're going to go to free market principles. If you really believe you have the better product, why would school choice scare you? If you, unions and teachers, really believe you are what's best for our kids, and you teachers that are part of this union really believe you're the most effective and the best educators available, then why do you have a problem of choice?
Now, logically, you couldn't have, but there I go, throwing in the L word.
Exactly.
So,
L, not E, not emotion.
Yeah.
So if you were truly the better option, and you were truly a better educator and you were truly a better school, then you would have nothing to worry about from these non-unionized, non-standardized, which you are standardized to a degree, charter school.
And talk about standards. The standard is labor unions, specifically educational labor unions, won't touch a Republican with a 10-foot pole. So why did these two Republicans jump ship and go over? Well, the answer is obvious. Money. And, for those of you who just tuned in, money, and also power. So anybody that supports school choice, promotes charter schools as alternatives, favors vouchers to provide parents with options, opposes automatic teacher tenure, we haven't even really addressed that, or calls for accountability of those teachers in public, you're a bad guy.
And is a critic of Common Core.
Yes. Exactly. Now, you may have seen these ads, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages who are listening to the SDack Heads radio show right now, live or on the podcast. Have you on your TV or even in your movie theaters seen the advertisement that I've seen recently that says, keep your kid in school, school attendance, make sure your children are in school, because a day without school seriously affects your child. And the only thing that I could think of when I was watching that advert is, you arseholes know that for every day that one child isn't in a seat is money that you miss. It's not about the child. It's about having as many arses in seats as you possibly can, because that's how you get paid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Way to be a drain on our budget for little return.
So then, and the wonderful thing is, then they tried to hit Pocahontas, tried to hit DeVos on the fact that she'd never run a major institution, that she'd never been responsible for a budget of billions of dollars. Okay, so what? Is she the only one that's going to be running that particular? She's a cabinet chair. She has an arseload of people underneath her, including budget wonks.
Yes.
To figure all of this stuff out. Hey, if it was good enough for Obama to come in and not know his left nut or pimple from a hole in the ground, why is it not the same for DeVos? Well, it's another specious argument. It's an argument that...
you can't bring that argument up with Obama because that makes you racist.
Oh, right. Good point.
Yeah, thanks. By the way, Hollywood, the way they're skewering Trump right now, if this had been done against Obama, they would have been labeled racists.
God, can you? Racist. That's another thing. Hollywood making all the speeches at the what were they? The Golden Globes.
That's some jackass.
Yeah, it was something that I didn't even.
I don't even pay attention to them anymore.
I really don't either. And then the other thing, I don't know. We've got a couple more minutes until
we've got a couple more minutes. So go off on your little rant right here.
Okay,
when we come back, I'll bump my segment, and we can still continue on with Jeff Sessions.
Because here's the thing: did you happen to see the Super Bowl on Sunday?
Yes. I bet Sean is still drunk, and that's why he needed to go ice skating.
Maybe that's
But anyways,
it.
I digress.
Maybe that's it. Well, it was the Patriots and the Atlanta Falcons. Neither one of them I really have much interest in. And certainly...
Whoa. I apologize, BZ, but in Sean's absence, I absolutely cannot let that stand.
Okay, I know why.
Yeah,
right.
I cannot stand by idly while you say you don't care about the Patriots.
That's where I was going.
So I am not personally a Patriots fan. I haven't followed NFL at all this year because of all the jackassery that's gone on there.
And they got crappy uniforms.
However, I know that in my absence, if you had said something about the Oakland Athletics, Sean would stand up and defend that. So I have to be a proxy defense for the twirly little twinkle toed fella.
Okay. Oh, figure skating.
Yes.
Okay, well, you've done your job.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyway, acknowledged.
Now, you don't give a shit about the Patriots, so...
No, I don't. So, I did, I cleaned the fish tank, I balanced my checkbook, I cut my nose hairs while the game was on, and then I was browsing through TV, and I came back, and I saw, what the hell? They're having a coin toss. They're flipping a coin toss. This sucker is in overtime. Well, how was it? How did that happen? The Falcons were ahead 28,000 to maybe 3 or something like that. Well, they came back, and they had to go into overtime. And from that point on, it was one of the best Super Bowls that I'd seen in a hell of a long time. And, of course, the only Super Bowl that went into overtime ever. But then the social media stuff that started that day and went into the next, started on Sunday, went over into Monday. I was reading stuff that said that just like Trump, these are nothing but a team full of white arseholes who think that they can walk in and their shite doesn't stink, and this is just not right because Atlanta is mostly black and New England is mostly white, and this is just representative of Trump, and we should hate the New England Patriots because Bob Kraft, who's the owner, is white, and he knows Trump, and he pals around with Trump, and it went so over the top, just like Hollywood, as you mentioned. And this stuff is going to have blowback. It is going to have blowback. They made more money in Hollywood this year than they did in They made more money in 2016 than they did in 2015, but that's attributed to the fact that movie prices rose. However, the number of movies that are produced in Hollywood these days is falling. And then the big blockbusters that open up, they don't attract the attention of very many people anymore. So Hollywood is starting to fail because it's discretionary money. It's not mandatory money. When you insult the customer, like the NFL already does, and I'm not too keen on the NFL right now, but Hollywood and NFL, anyone else, ESPN, their ratings are tanking. When you continue to insult the customer, you're going to lose cash. You're going to hemorrhage, just like the newspapers' readers, advertising, because you insult and go out of your way to insult your customers. How can you expect to make money? How can you expect to grow your organization when your platform is that? That doesn't make any sense. So all the leftists out there in Hollywood, newspapers, movies, sports, ESPN, I say, just like all these little anarchists and rioters, keep it up.
And Richard Lawson from Vanity Fair, he's the film critic, so here we go, Hollywood again. He actually said that DeVos is going to kill children.
How insane is that?
Here, voucher programs will create, quote, this is a quote, voucher programs will create systems in which queer kids have literally zero access to support apparatus because they are in religious schools, meaning voucher programs will lead to more suicides. Betsy DeVos's policies will kill children. Huh?
Okay, let's go into some stats very briefly, because I know we got a minute before we go to the break.
Yeah.
I can remember being in a class in law enforcement. I had to attend. It was mandatory. And some people that were gay came in and said that they told me,
like when you say gay, you talking about happy?
Yes, they were happy people.
Okay.
They had smiles on the gizzicks and all.
Yes.
They came in and they said 10% of the United States is gay. And this is back in the 90s. They're full of shite. The true number is between 2 and 5%, depending on the state. Now, of that 2 and 5%, a tenth of 1% is the number of individuals that fall into the transsexual category like that. So we're catering all this stuff, just like you said, to a minority of a minority of a minority.
Yes, and I have another, I'm taking umbrage with something else that this jackass Lawson wrote. He said, quote, queer kids. Now, I assume he's meaning alternate lifestyle, gay, whatever. I'm assuming that's what he means.
Now the question...
But queer actually means weird or strange.
Yes.
So why is he being so hateful?
Well,
why does he think that that homosexual minors are strange or weird?
Well, here's another point. The guy making that statement that you're looking at, is he gay? Himself.
Happy?
Yes.
I don't know if he's happy.
Okay.
He sounds like an angry little man to me.
Yes, because now if he is actually gay,
if he's actually happy,
he can get away with saying queer. Now, if you or I came up to a homosexual or a lesbian or fill in the blank and said, you're a queer, we'd probably get coffee thrown in our face.
Queer means different or weird.
Yes, it
I
does.
used to play a game in school called Smear the Queer.
Yes.
Now, apparently, if you're in the back of a bar with baby oil, that means something different nowadays. But when I was in school, it involved a ball and being chased and trying not to get your ass kicked.
Yeah, exactly. So gays can get away with queer just like blacks can get away with nigger.
Look,
I can't say that word.
And you didn't.
And it's just a word.
It
nigger. Who gives a shite about that? It's just a word. Words, I don't fear words, but there are certain words politically that I cannot say, that I'm not supposed to say. And in polite company, I won't.
Correct.
And I mention these words to make a point. And the point is there's a two-faced, hypocritical system going on.
Yes.
Oops, we're over our break.
We're over a break. You're right. And here, look, here's the other issue with that. You know, we've done segments here on this show, Take Back the Hate, where words that are now bad to say, they actually had no negative meaning.
No, the connotation was
right. The connotation
right out of the dictionary.
Correct. For example, queer. Queer was not and did not have a negative connotation.
Used to mean odd. It used to mean strange.
Yeah, it meant nothing bad. Wood pussy. A wood pussy is a skunk. Did you know that?
I was not aware of that.
Yes, skunks are felines. And so the term
okay.
wood pussy
All right.
is actually a skunk. Or the college professor who got terminated because he said the word niggardly, which has nothing to do with race.
No, that's like penurious.
Yes,
it's the same thing.
Or the term Negro, because it pertains to Negroid. Mongoloid, Caucasoid, Negroid.
Yes.
It's a group, a scientific
They
group.
are the classes recognized by science. Correct.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. All right. We're up against the break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Jeff Sessions. So BZ is going to continue because I guess he didn't wrap up his segment. And we're going to be talking about the insidious decline of the U.S. Armed Forces as well. All this and more on the SDack Heads radio show, SHR Media.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the Unpleasant Blind Guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying coffee was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplains.dailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back on the Sackheads Radio Show, SHR Media Network. I'm Sackhead Clint. Here sitting across from me is the man himself, the bloviating Zeppelin, Mr. BZ.
It's wonderful to be here tonight, and it's wonderful to be here with you, Sackheads Clint. And again, I didn't really say this. Maybe I should say it now since I'm looking at you. Thank you guys again for allowing me to be a Sackhead.
Oh, no, look, we love having you on the show. You've certainly earned your place.
It's been a great ride, and I hope to continue being here. But one of the greatest things occurred today.
I hope so. Well, hang on. I hope so, too. And I do want to say something. Notice how nice and pleasant this show has been tonight? There's been no yelling and screaming.
All right, what's your point?
I was just making an observation of what a nice discussion we're having. Nice, mature discussion. With no smart-ass interruptions.
No racist overtones.
No racist overtones. No throwing Ken under the bus or in the back.
I know.
Right?
Or making some kind of a snarky reference to 2/3.
Yeah. Yes.
That's just so wrong.
That is wrong. That is wrong. And Dave, you're correct. We have the FNG to carry all the heavy crap.
That's true. Don't think that didn't happen with Las Vegas.
A boot.
That's an inside joke. All right. Anyway, moving right along. A wonderful thing. Okay, Betsy DeVos got confirmed yesterday, and we were just talking about that, as Secretary of Education.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 2 major appointments are still coming. Well, the most major appointment.
Thanks, Mamba.
What did he say?
He just posted.
All right. Anyway.
I think it's Wikipedia.
What?
Hey, it's the... there's a link to the history of the word nigger.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Just what we don't want to go into. Right?
The word originated as a neutral term referring to people with darker skin, as a variation of the Spanish and Portuguese noun negro. So basically, if anybody doesn't like that word, they're shaming my heritage as Portuguese.
Ooh.
So people that don't like that word are racist against me. This means
point.
I can use this word.
Yes.
This is what I'm gaining from this article.
Yes, because if your heritage falls into that fashion...
Yes.
You make an excellent point there, sir.
Thank you. So I can use this word.
Yes.
And I'm going to print out this Wikipedia page and take it with me as I walk down the street yelling this word, and I try to get attacked. I'm going to point to the paper and my Portuguese heritage.
Right.
Perfect.
You can be wrong, and you can be dead wrong.
And I'd probably be both.
Take your choice.
I would probably be both.
So a wonderful thing happened today, and this should have happened quite some time ago. Jeff Sessions, Senator, just got confirmed in the Senate. And it was kind of close, pretty close. It was, it went 52 to 47, almost entirely party line. And it was like weeks and weeks and weeks of divisive battles over Jeff Sessions, who oddly enough, and I didn't know this until I started reading some articles, he was one of the earlier supporters of Donald Trump for president and one of the Senate's most conservative lawmakers. So after he was confirmed, there was a lot of applause and whatnot from fellow Republican colleagues. And oddly enough, a Democrat or two actually went over there. And in his speech, he was saying, I'd like to see more collegiality and less of this bitter rivalry stuff. But you know what, quite frankly, that's just not going to happen these days. It's just not going to happen. He said, denigrating people who disagree with us, I think, is not a healthy trend for the body. And he makes an excellent point. But now that I suspected that he was going to get confirmed. I think mostly everybody did.
Yeah.
One of his quotes is, the era of mass amnesty policies is over. He is a pro-American immigration reformer. And so I wrote a post just after Obama left. And it went something like this. Sometimes the things that people don't say are equally, if not more important, than the things they do say. Mm-hmm. What I meant by that was, what did Obama not say? And I was waiting. I thought, okay, he's going to do this on the very last day in office. And he didn't.
Pardon Clinton.
Yes. Yes, he did not pardon Hillary Clinton. Now, because as most everyone knows, if he had pardoned her, despite the fact that she may not have been charged or indicted, like Gerald Ford pardoning Nixon, though he was never formally impeached, he resigned before that actually occurred, a pardon would still hold.
Yes.
So he could have done that. He chose not to.
And here's why I think that happened.
Okay.
I think that was purposeful.
I do too.
The reason I say that is because if he pardoned her, in 4 years, she would not be able to run effectively. Because it'll be thrown out there that, well, if she really didn't do anything wrong, why would the former president need to be pardoned?
Yes.
If he doesn't pardon her and no charges are brought, or she's found not guilty or whatever the case is, her political career is not completely destroyed. That's my take on it.
The other take on it is, I think it's pretty common. You and I already know this, that there was no love lost between the Obamas and the Clintons.
Correct.
At all. And yet, the interesting thing was, if you remember, Obama was saying about Hillary Clinton that she's one of the most qualified presidential candidates in the history of the planet, including Zephron, which was a sack of crap. It wasn't. No one could name her accomplishments, all that other stuff, Rentune. So I think that had a little bit of a play in it, too. He was going to leave her sort of hanging out in the breeze. So, you can take it one of those two ways. The interesting point now is Trump said, and predicated a portion of his campaign upon this, I'm going to go after you. You were a liar. You cheated. You colluded. The Hillary Clinton Foundation, all the money that was spent, all the corruption that followed her wherever she goes. Now you really do have Jeff Sessions in there. And he's not a rubber stamp, and I don't think he's going to necessarily be a rubber stamp for Trump. I think he might be just a little bit more independent than Trump thinks. But the huge question is, will he go after Clinton, or is it too far to consider because of the amount of time that's occurred from her leaving the public eye, and or...
No way, statute of limitations, right?
I'm just curious.
No, he could absolutely do it. Here's my...
So what would be the statute on U.S. codes? I don't know, frankly.
Are they
3 and 5?
We're talking. Well, what's treason? There's no statute of limitations on treason.
No.
But even if she went for national security, I think it's a 3. I think you're right. I think it's either a 3 or a 5 year.
But
I'd have to read it. It's not 1 year, that I know.
No, it's not. So I think she would potentially be
she
subject.
Could. So here's
to
where Trump has to be careful, in my opinion. George H.W. Bush was a one-term president because he failed to make good on one campaign promise.
Yes.
No new taxes.
Yes.
Read my lips.
And that came back to haunt
no
him.
new taxes. And he was a one-term president. Donald Trump said very specifically, I am going to go after this woman. She's a crook. She belongs in jail. If I get elected, I'm going to go after you. Very specific campaign promises. The thing that, if he fails to go after her, the thing that's going to save him is the economy. And the moves that he's making. Already talking about in projects, American steel is going to have priority, which, if that happens, is going to turn Pennsylvania red for the next couple election cycles. Right? The auto industry coming back to Michigan, Ford already has.
Ford came back.
Is going to turn that.
Intel today said that they're going to finish building a plant that they had a prototype for. They're going to spend $7 billion here in the United States building Intel components and hiring roughly 3,000 people, employees. That's another wonderful thing. This stuff just keeps happening.
Yeah. Yep. And Dave brought up an interesting post here in the chat room. He says, look, if he doesn't do that, and I'm going to throw the caveat in, if he doesn't do that and he doesn't create a bunch of jobs here in the U.S., then he's going to be challenged probably effectively within his own party.
I would completely concur. Or would he do this?
You'll see Ted Cruz come out again, or you'll see Kasich, that jackass.
God.
Still, still. I can see that jackass making a run at Trump.
The more I heard him, the more I hated him.
Yeah,
I heard him on he used to be a friend to the Hugh Hewitt radio show. And once he started running for president, he started to get really bitter and slamming Hewitt. And that really kind of pissed me off. But here's a corollary. Here's another question for you, Clint, and that's this. Can Trump logically say and kind of throw it, just like Loretta Lynch threw the decision for prosecution of Clinton over to the FBI, to James Comey, and let him deal with it? I'm just going to let the FBI decide what's going to happen with Hillary Clinton. Will Trump say, that decision really does lie with my Attorney General, Jeff Sessions? If he decides to go over against her, that's fine. But you know what?
I'm not going to direct her to do it.
Jeff Sessions said that, if he says, he's decided he's not going to do it. And he can kind of wipe his hands of that and say, look, it wasn't my decision.
Yeah.
He decided.
Yeah. He could say, listen, I made the campaign promise that my Justice Department would look at this and go after her. My Justice Department looked at this and decided there was nothing we could go after her for. Okay. And if that's the case, I would really have to take pause and wonder, one of two things is happening, right? Trump really was friendly with the Clintons because we know he was a contributor before and all that other stuff.
Right.
And so this was a favor. Or two, perhaps there was really nothing actionable there, even though everybody knew she did it. There's nothing that could be proven beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. We would have to assume one of those two things because there would be no middle ground.
No, it's pretty much black and white.
Correct. It has to be one of those two things.
It either fulfills the statute requirements for an indictment or a grand jury, or it doesn't. Either one of the two.
I think it's beyond that, right? I think it's because if you look at how district attorneys, prosecuting attorneys look at cases when they come in. They look at them not on is there a technical violation? They look at it as can I get a conviction in this county or in this whatever with this audience? Because it's money.
Yes, and it's a massive consideration,
It's a massive consideration. So it is possible that there is a technical violation of law, which I have no doubt that there was. I have no doubt there was, to be clear. But that Jeff Sessions, as an attorney general, it is possible he looks at this and says, I can't prove this beyond a reasonable doubt to an audience of X.
Right.
Maybe because I can't release all the evidence because it's still classified.
And
maybe it's
so
because
much there.
Right.
No, I completely agree.
Or it's a political favor.
Yes, and if, politics enters everything.
Right. The fact Loretta Lynch didn't even look at it or take it under consideration is dead wrong.
Well, that said everything that we needed to know about Loretta Lynch.
And you have the optics of the meeting on the tarmac with Clinton and the airplane and everything else. If this Justice Department looks at it, now you have two that are saying the same thing, or the FBI, James Comey, saying the same thing as Jeff Sessions. Well, I don't know. Does it lend more credence? That's not for me to answer. Does it lend more credence to that argument? I could make a straight-faced argument for political favor, and I could make a straight-faced argument for can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
You could do that. I would throw up an argument. I tell you what, I'm not even going to do that right now. A lot of people like Sessions because they believe that he has a good knowledge of the real honest-to-God role of the Justice Department.
I believe he does, too.
The legislative process, how all the process works, and a great consideration for the rule of law, which is what we've not been seeing much of recently. And he's going to say, here's the other thing that's glorious. When you have a case that would yield voter fraud, if he's got enough information, I think he'll go for it.
Mm-hmm.
If the IRS, if Koskinen keeps on the same track that the IRS was doing, going after specific individuals or groups like conservatives, he'll go after the IRS.
Yes.
So the question is, all right, Hillary is a component. That's going to be an important question.
Mm-hmm.
Immigration is going to be a huge issue as to what he decides that he's going to go after or ignore. And that brings in just what you wrote about California, Clint. The more California is going insane, the more it's almost begging to be sued. Now, it's no shock that Eric Holder and his law firm, which resides in California.
Interesting question real quick.
Yes, sir.
Can Jeff Sessions go after Eric Holder for contempt that Congress found him in contempt of prior?
Wow, that's an excellent question. I don't know that much about contempt. Yes, he initially was found in contempt, and then that was vacated.
And he declined prosecution himself.
Yes.
Because the contempt charge goes to the Justice Department for consideration.
Right. And
he dismissed it against himself.
It was vacated.
Right. So can he pick that contempt charge back up? Or Lois Lerner?
That's an excellent, excellent question. Yes, Lois Lerner's taking the fifth numerous times.
Yeah.
But I think the huge issue is going to be immigration. And California has drawn a line in the sand, so to speak, all around its border.
Build a freaking wall.
And
wall California in.
They want to secede.
Make a right
turn. They want to be a sanctuary state. Trump has said in no uncertain terms whatsoever that he is going to fight California against being a sanctuary city.
Sanctuary state.
A state.
They're trying to pass, what was it? De Leon of the state Senate came out and said they need us more than we need them. We create our own jobs out here. We do. You know what, hey, Mr. Trump, Mr. President, when you build a freaking wall and you come from Texas and Arizona, fucking hang a right. Hang a right and wall in Nevada and then wall around and then hook a left and wall in Oregon and leave California out. Leave it. Look, California needs to free America should be independent of California.
Well, and
I call it California and free America.
Well, I say I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in
occupied, we are occupied California,
in occupied Fornicalia. But here's another interesting point. The mayor, I think, of Miami or Miami-Dade, didn't he recently? His was a sanctuary city. Now he has recently said that he's not going to continue being a sanctuary city. Well, I'm looking on the Drudge Report, and today or yesterday, there was another agency or entity that likewise said, because of all the rhetoric that's going on, I think we've been now convinced we are no longer going to be a sanctuary city. Is this a bit of a tide that's starting to move and starting to actually roll?
It is. San Francisco won't ever change that tide.
No, not unless they hit in the pocketbook. But see, here's the thing. The massive forces of law and money and philosophy are going to be arrayed shortly against anyone in D.C. because essentially Trump will get his cabinet. He's already gotten Jeff Sessions, and I firmly believe he's also going to get Neil Gorsuch.
I believe he will. One way or another, he is.
Yes, one way or another, he's going to get that.
Yes.
So it's going to take time, yes. And all these people have obstructed and delayed and delayed. And here's another interesting point. All the Democrats and the leftists are saying in D.C. that these people are not submitting their paperwork in a timely fashion back to us so that we can examine it. They are, in fact, being the obstructionists, those people who are up for various picks in cabinet and otherwise. What's actually occurring is that the Democrats are throwing back interrogatories at them, throwing more paperwork back at them, and then asking more questions on paper needing to be answered and then moved back. If that's not obstructionist, I don't know what is. And the answer is yes, it is incredibly obstructionist. So I think, Clint, please weigh in. What I think Donald Trump and Sessions almost have no other choice but to go after California. It's the big dog. It's the big opposer.
Yeah.
Trust me. Oh, you know, if he gets his way in California and he's able to stop federal dollars from going into either states, counties, cities that say that they're sanctuary involved.
Once, hey, you know what?
Once you stop the dollars, everyone else's arses is going to get in line.
Let me tell you the biggest funding that would hurt the state of California, in my opinion, commercial vehicle funding. Commercial vehicle funding and enforcement is a lot of federal dollars that come in to the state for those programs. The federal highway system.
Yes. Think of all the federal grants that will no longer be available to these entities.
How much? When it is estimated that if I forget what's the number, how many millions of dollars of commerce are affected by a freeway closure of like an hour? It's something ridiculous. It's like $12 million an hour of commerce.
A major east-west,
like
north-south interstate. Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's somewhere around there. If that funding stops for either commercial vehicle enforcement or commercial vehicle safety programs, or it's that, and that's one program, folks. So California, are you kidding me? You have, and look, so to be clear, I don't think California should be taking on the federal government on immigration policy, because that is a federal issue. That is allowed under the Constitution.
Yes, 10th Amendment.
That being said, 10th Amendment would reserve to the states, right?
Yes.
So that being said, I don't want Trump to come down either and interfere in state business,
yes,
which is protected under the 10th Amendment. But California, you better pick your fight.
Yes, because immigration
is a federal issue.
Federal issue, not a state issue.
Hands down. And here's something interesting that you and I talked about really briefly. When Washington argued this whole immigration executive order from Trump, one of the reasons they used is commerce. Commerce, who has say over commerce? Who can regulate commerce? It's the legislative branch.
Yes.
So if the argument is commerce, and here's where California may go with this, if the president stops this funding which affects commerce, will the court challenge or the court language then be bent or twisted to say it's not an immigration issue, it's a commerce issue, and therefore, Mr. President, you don't have the authority to issue an executive order that affects commerce. This has to be done legislatively through Congress.
You make an excellent argument with that, and linked with commerce is business. Judge Robart wrote in his opinion with regard to Oregon, specifically Oregon, because Washington, because he knows more about Washington. Michigan was attached as well, but specifically in Washington, he said this would negatively impact Microsoft, Expedia, the various Starbucks, the larger organizations that are technologically imbued up there that would negatively impact these particular corporations. That's a novel argument.
It's interesting.
That's a very novel argument, but I don't think it holds water at all. What he's basically saying is it's the fault of the universities all around the nation that we don't produce more technologically oriented people.
Yes.
So therefore, because we lack, we need to import more people.
Yes.
And from these 7 countries, how many computer programmers do you think are coming from Sudan and Somalia?
They're kind of like computer programs because you have to make the cell phone be able to communicate with the explosive device.
Yeah, or Libya.
Right?
Or Syria. Lots of computer
They can build bombs. They can program computers. Look, I think it's a non-starter argument also because you can link commerce to everything. But if I was Trump, here's what I'd do. I would say, okay, your argument is I'm stopping immigration only from these 7 Muslim countries, never mind the other 43 or whatever it is that are predominantly Muslim. Okay, fine. Fuck you. I'm going to stop immigration into the United States, period, for the next 90 days.
Well,
now it's not religious based at all. It wasn't in the first place, but nobody's allowed into our freaking country for 90 days while we get our shit squared away so I can protect our citizens.
90 days. There was an act in 1921, the act in 1924, which greatly diminished the number of immigrants, and then it was opened up back into as 1965s when it opened back up again to various and sundry countries.
Oh, yeah. SCOTUS has ruled on this in the past.
Yes, the goal of that was to allow the people that flooded in time to the A word, assimilate.
Yes. And SCOTUS has ruled on this in the past. Am I not mistaken on that? I think they have.
Yes.
Folks, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to continue this discussion because we have not yet got to our armed forces and the state of that.
Hell, I didn't even look at the clock.
I know. I could tell. I'm doing the high sign. I
wondered what the flare was.
I was doing the hustle. You didn't even notice or comment. Folks, we're up against a break. See you in a few.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the SDack Heads radio show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the SDack Heads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying cop was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the SDack Heads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on SHRmedia.com.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR Media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Coming soon to Ossicles near you. Excelsior.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to SDack Heads Radio Show, live on the SHR Media Network. Sackhead Clint sitting across from Sackhead Zepp.
And it's been a great night. We were just talking about it at the break. Damn. An hour and a half has gone by like that. Just zip
by. I mean, we're having so much fun, and it's weird. I mean, it's been so peaceful, so nice. Like the seamless transitions.
Do you smell smoke?
No, not at all. Not one bit. Look, I thought I saw a story that was a little funny earlier this week after Iran told the United States, "You can't tell us what to do," and then they pulled a missile off the launch pad.
Right?
We're not fucking launching this. And then today they launched a missile.
Right again.
Interesting story came out. The quote insidious decline in readiness of our United States military, and I bring up the Iranian missile launch again because this is a very serious issue. And first of all, you brought up whoa! Did you see the cat just run by and hit the microphone?
I know.
Or was it a wood pussy?
No, I think it was B. It was. You can say that. I can't say that.
Why can't you say it's a skunk? It's in the dictionary.
You know, I have to say that tonight is the first time ever that I've ever heard that word used for a skunk.
Really?
I never knew.
Look it up. Have you ever smelled wood pussy? Wood pussy is some nasty smelling stuff.
My dog did about 10 years ago.
Yeah, it is nasty. What was the name of the book you were referencing by Tom Clancy? Never heard of it. The one that talked about like the U.S. was attacked by Iran, China.
Oh boy, that's just about any Tom Clancy book.
But it was one specific book that you were just talking to me about it.
Now I can't remember.
Oh my gosh, You're killing me. All right.
I'm a victim of NSCB, which is non-specific cranial buzzing right now. So okay, guilty.
I thought maybe you were with our black friend in Washington D.C.
Who would that be?
Ken, the exceptional one himself, who suffers from narcolepsy. So, for decades, the F-18 Hornet has been the primary combat jet from the United States Navy.
Right.
And there was testimony in Congress this week that more than 60% of the Navy's frontline jets, the F-18 Hornet, is out of service. More than 60%.
Well, if you remember from last week, there were 2 or 3 days, or even a week, when we did not have a full carrier group in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, so I don't know if you were around yet, but I was in San Diego probably about a year and a half ago, and there was all of the carriers were in. I took a picture, and I was like, who's protecting?
Yeah,
who's protecting us right now?
That's the whole part of the Reagan.
There were 4 carriers in port. 4.
Wow, that's pretty well for whatever reason. Whatever.
Do you know how many are on the West Coast? I think there are 4 in the Pacific group.
There's some up in Washington. I know there's a carrier group up there. There used to be one in San Francisco. All the leftists got that removed. It used to be the Enterprise before it was decommissioned.
Mm-hmm. Now the Hornet's there over in Alameda, but it's a museum.
Yeah, exactly.
So over 60% of the frontline Navy combat jets are out of service. 74% of the United States Marine Corps' FA-18s and combat aircraft are gone. They're not ready for combat operations. 74%.
That's an amazing figure.
Of the Marine Corps.
Back in 2016, the CNO, the Chief of Naval Operations, says that budget cuts from Mr. Obama, not Trump, Obama owns this, leave the Navy at its lowest point in years. Some of the ships that are being built right now are littoral ships, and littoral, that's Littoral. A littoral ship is a ship created for combat and defense in shallower waters. Blue water ships, which are blue water Navy, which are bigger ships, carriers, carrier groups, etc. We are at our lowest point in, I can remember Reagan wanted a 500-ship Navy and just about got it, if I'm not mistaken, in the 80s. Right now, I think we're about 2
ships.
We're about 270 to 280.
We're about 2 or 3 ships. I think we have 1 refueling vessel, a pontoon boat, and a jet ski.
That reminds me.
Right?
We have 1 cutter. We have 1 icebreaker in the United States. 1 that fully functions right now. For those of you who just tuned in, 1. Russia has 5, and they're building another.
And China
10.
has more because they're trying to explore the oil reserves in the Arctic.
In the Arctic.
Yes.
And that's exactly why Russia is doing that. They're building vessels at a staggering clip. We're building nothing.
Yes.
We're losing people. We're losing materiel. We're losing aircraft. The United States Air Force cannibalizes its own F-16s in order to get the rest of the fleet flying because they don't have money for parts.
Yes. Dave Milner just made a prediction that before Trump is done, if he gets 8 years, there will be a new USS Enterprise. I'm going to go a step further and say that if he has a sense of humor, he's going to name the next submarine the Monica Lewinsky because it goes down. That would be awesome. And kind of a backhanded comment to Hillary Clinton.
I'll tell you something that I might not, I shouldn't maybe tell you. The Soviets had what they called an Alpha-class submarine.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I don't think they build Alphas anymore. It had the world record. Conceive of this, if you will. It would run at 40 knots underwater. 40 knots underwater with minimal cavitation. That's absolutely remarkable. Also, question for people listening live, to you, Clint, and people in chat. What was the fastest ship that the U.S. Navy had at one point? I'll give you a clue. It's been recently decommissioned. Why also was it the fastest ship?
Because
Any answers?
Yes, because it was the USS Enterprise and it had warp drive.
Yes, it was the USS Enterprise, and that's because
nuclear propulsion.
It had 9 nuclear cores in it.
Mm-hmm.
That ship also would run. Can you imagine a ship the size of the USS Enterprise, because they went to a completely different program for reactors. It had the greatest number of reactors, and it would accelerate so rapidly that every once in a while it would break shafts. It was clocked at over 40 knots, because in any carrier group, the fastest ship in a carrier group is the carrier. And everybody knows that in every carrier group, there's also an attack submarine that you never see.
Because it's like the Lewinsky. It's gone down.
Yes, so to speak.
So to speak. By the way, I love the chat room. The chat room just went off about the Lewinsky, or name it the Bill Clinton cigar, which would be pretty good. Goes into wet places, like the ocean.
That's good. I like that.
What? It's interesting.
Actually, wouldn't that be wonderful to have us commission and build another enterprise and make it a carrier? That would be grand. I would.
Look, you know what?
Like to see that.
I want to see. Look, with the types of wars we're fighting in the War on Terror, I want to see a new class of battleship come out. Look, the USS Missouri, that ship served in World War II. The Japanese signed the surrender in Tokyo Bay on that ship. It is moored in Pearl Harbor on Battleship Row, right by the USS Arizona, which was sunk. So you had the start and the ending of World War II. Very, very powerful statement. That ship served all the way up through the Gulf War. It was in the movie Under Siege.
Yes.
That ship,
the
Navy still has rights to pull that ship and to press it into service.
Yes.
If need be. And the Marine Corps has been trying to get that ship back in service because there is nothing better to shell land targets.
No.
I want to see a new class of battleship that's able to support our ground troops in those roles.
Have you ever gone onto, or has anybody in chat or listening live ever toured one of our battleships? I did one time. And the fire control area on a battleship where they actually fire the large guns in the turrets, the fire control systems up in the towers, the armor is literally 3 feet thick.
Yeah.
When the HMS Sheffield was sunk in the Falklands crisis in 1980, one Exocet missile fired at the Sheffield from across the horizon knocked that entire ship out. If you fired an Exocet or a cruise missile at any one of our battleships, it would literally bounce off that armor band.
Mm-hmm.
They are incredible ships.
And the turrets on the Missouri, they sit on by gravity.
Yes.
So if the ship tilts more than whatever degree it is, the turrets, in theory, will fall off because they're not bolted down to anything, and then the ship will, in theory,
I took a tour,
right itself.
and I was every bit as impressed with the battleship as I was, say, looking at the Saturn V. It's absolutely astounding.
And that's what I want. And I don't want a freaking railgun. I don't want a small little cute destroyer, whatever. I want a big-ass gun that shoots a shell the size of a school bus that when it impacts sand, it's going to turn that into a glass parking lot. That's what I want.
Yes. Little tidbit of information and detail. Some of the reasons that over the ages our battleships were taken down is because they couldn't find barrel liners for the guns.
Mm-hmm.
They found a massive amount of barrel liners, brought it back for Vietnam, lost all the barrel liners, and then when it came back in 93 for the first Iraqi war, and fired lots of shells, they found another supply of barrel liners, but that's one of the reasons that the battleships have gone down. They have to create them. They're entirely... that's another thing about a technology that we're giving away to other countries and the fact that we can't build things anymore, which is very sad. Very sad indeed. But basically what you're saying is our military has been absolutely gutted. You know, the number, for example, the number of U.S. Army soldiers on active duty has been reduced to its lowest point since 1940, according to the Army Times. The current number is still well above 269,000 soldiers on duty in 1940, the year before America entered World War II. We have the number of ships now in our Navy that we had in 1917. We can't find parts for planes. On a given day, there can be more pilots to fly aircraft than there are available aircraft. And that's all because of Barack Obama. Not interested. And at the same time, the thing that I find So conflicting and frustrating is the fact that he has consistently insisted that we apply our troops in a social fashion and not a military fashion. So at the time when he wants to apply them more, we don't have the people, we don't have the materiel. It's a sad and terrible comment.
Mm-hmm. So I want one of the vice chief of nasal operations. See, Sean's not even here, and fucking nose joints are already slipping in. The vice chief of naval operations, Admiral William Moran, testified Wednesday today and he said, "quote Our long-term readiness continues its insidious decline." Hence the term insidious decline. He says, "While we're still able to put our first team on the field, our bench is largely depleted." That's a problem.
It's a huge problem.
That's a huge problem.
Because historically we have always been able to and have been called to fight numerous multiple theater wars. We may have enough people and aircraft and ships to apply to one particular given geopolitical location, but if something flares up in another location, do we really have the equipment and the personnel requisite to answer those particular problems? Those brush fires are going to get larger. And they're going to get bigger, because here's the other deal that Obama didn't factor in it. Because of Obama, China has been emboldened. Because of Obama, Russia has been emboldened. Because of Obama, North Korea has been emboldened. Because of Obama, Iraq, specifically Iran, has been more emboldened. Think what would happen if they did, in fact, shut down, say, for example, the Strait of Hormuz, directly adjacent Iran. Bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, when you don't recognize the nature of a bully and meet it, the bully prospers and becomes more powerful. Leftists, Obama, the minions, the people that were there at the time under Obama, they don't grok that concept. I don't get it. I don't understand why.
And here's one of the, what was it, $600 billion last year under Obama for the military budget, and they've been asking for increases. Did you see what Trump did with the price tag of the F-35
yes.
jets?
He pushed his finger in the eye of Lockheed Martin.
Yes, he did.
He pushed his finger in the eye of Grumman.
Yep.
He pushed his finger in the eye of Boeing, because here's another thing, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of these companies don't just build aircraft. Grumman, for example, they build ships as well. So it's just... And he's a negotiator. He's going to get a big deal. And a lot of these big corporations are acquiescing.
Absolutely.
Because they're finally being called on it.
And they would rather get 80% of something than 100% of nothing.
Yes. And there are still issues with the F-35. There are many pilots that are out there. I go to defense1.com. And if you haven't been there, ladies and gentlemen, it's an excellent, excellent website that has to do with the military, U.S. military, and defense, naturally. There are people that are saying the F-35 can't even dogfight. And then there are other people that are saying, well, the F-35 is not meant to dogfight. Bullshit. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We learned our lesson in Vietnam with the F-4 Phantom. It came out with no frickin' internal gun because the era of dogfight was over. And we had a percentage of missiles that weren't working. And, oh shit, we need a gun.
Yeah.
So they had to sling a gun center line where one of the extra tanks would go center on that aircraft to have that thing operate before they put an internal gun in it. So now we're doing this with the F-35. And another fucked up thing with the F-35, how many single-engine fighter jets are supposed to be carrier-based?
Good question. I don't know that answer.
Think of every fighter.
Oh, carrier-based.
Carrier-based fighter. Yes.
Yes.
The F-35 is a single-engine carrier-based aircraft.
Yep.
That is not supposed to happen.
God, that's great. I had never thought about it in that fashion, but you are correct.
That is so somebody else somewhere signed off on this crap. Carrier jets, carrier fighters, carrier aircraft were required to have two engines. Because if one failed, you still have the ability to at least gain altitude, and come around and abort and land. You don't fall into the frickin' water and get run over by the ship.
Now, I was thinking the A4 Skyhawk had one engine, and I'm trying to look at images of the A4 to see if it has two engines.
But since that jet, because it did, it was a single engine, dual intake. But since that jet in Vietnam, every aircraft since then was supposed to have two.
Well, it makes sense.
The F-14, the F-18, the A-6 Intruder,
yes.
the EA-6B Prowler,
right?
The E-2, the COD, the E-2, right?
The Vigilante,
yes.
The Crusader.
Yep.
Yes, you're right. Interesting.
The F-4.
I never thought about it in those terms.
So obviously, corners were cut. So if Trump is making these kinds of deals, then what can he do with, like you said, ships? And we already know that the military is a priority for him. We're behind the curve. I know we only have a few minutes left, but look, another problem that I see coming up, and this is not only going to affect our military, it's going to affect our law enforcement as well, is the ability to recruit. We have...
Yeah, and there's another issue with that, too, yes.
The millennial generation coming out, in my opinion, don't have the same sense of duty, the same sense of honor, the same sense of commitment. I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
Right. Sacrifice, discipline.
They don't have the same level of... And in the schools and universities throughout the country, they're being taught that America is bad. American exceptionalism doesn't exist. The American military is evil. The American law enforcement is the enemy. How are we going to get men and women to serve, to defend our nation, and men and women to serve stateside to defend our citizens by wearing a badge?
That's an excellent question.
And I think that as a country, we not only need to be addressing the obvious equipment and budgetary needs of our military as well as our nation, because we have to be fiscally responsible as well, but we have to be careful and we have to be able to recruit the men and women to staff those things, to man those aircraft, to staff the ships, to protect us and to serve.
That also brings up a very interesting paradigm, because all aspects of the military, the Air Force, the Navy, are all considering this. When you build a ship, you build a series of ship. There are types and prototypes, and now when you build aircraft, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. They're struggling with what do we do with the ships. We know that personnel on board ships have been going down. As personnel is reduced, technology goes up. It's the same for aircraft. I think they're struggling with, are we going to go with full blue water unmanned ships or minimally manned ships? And how are we going to go in the Air Force? Are we going to go into completely unmanned craft, or what are we going to be doing? I think that's one of the big problems that they have right now. Here's another little bit of trivia. Clarence Kelly, who was the essentially creator of the Skunk Works, the Lockheed Skunk Works.
The Wood Pussy Works.
Yes. Got the original prototype finished from the order from the Department of Defense in the early 60s to the time that he had a working prototype in 1 year. You can't do that anymore.
No, you can't. We need a new Wood Pussy Works here in America, folks.
I agree.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. It's a wrap-up here.
Done.
We're done. It is 10 o'clock. BZ, I want to thank you, sir.
Thank you ever so kindly
for being here.
It's been a great show.
It was a great show without Sean. It was a phenomenal show without Sean.
Do we tell him?
No, we don't tell him. He's listening. He's right now. He's bright red in his little tutu in his cage.
That's right.
Is he sweet thing?
Just one question: is he still wearing the luchadora mask?
Yes.
Do you think so?
Yes.
Will he sleep with it tonight?
Only because he has the gag ball in and the zippers shut on the mask.
Bring in the gimp.
on the mask. Check out all of our affiliates on the SHR Media Network, the Bloviating Zeppelin, BC, the Exceptional One.
Oh, I'll be here tomorrow
Ken
night.
McClinton. Yes, you will. Yes, you will.
I'll be here tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern.
You will.
The Berserk Bobcat Saloon, the Aftermath.
Check out Dave Milner. We thank you, sir. All of our friends on the SDack Heads radio show and the SHR Media Network. We're over time. If I forgot anybody, please forgive me. I love you all. God bless America.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, SDack Heads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than SDack Head Sean and SDack Head Clint. And we're working on immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work there too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, SDack Heads Radio.
Talk, 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 dude. Talk, 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 dude.
Radio.
Talk, 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 dude. Talk, 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 dude.
Radio.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.